Hello, everybody. My name is Oleg Chervontsev, and today we're going to talk about the role of front-end development in the modern software development. To tell a bit about myself, I'm a front-end developer at a company called Devexperts, and for the plus 7 years or so, I've been working as a front-end developer, mostly in fintech, but also on various projects and with various scale and complexity of work. So today's talk is more an introductory level to the profession itself. So if you are thinking on where to start but don't know where yet, uh, you might find some interesting information in what I'm going to tell you. So basically, when we talk about front-end, we are looking at it in two basic roles. It's making the user interfaces interactive and also presenting the data to the users. And basically, the main languages of front-end are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is in which languages the majority of work is done. And to give some more context to them, HTML is about composing data. So putting data into boxes and into sets of boxes that further you will do something with. CSS is about styling, so all your colors, all your sizings, all your fonts go into CSS, and this is where you describe how it should look. And JavaScript is about making HTML and CSS interactive. So when a user clicks something, well, something happens, or a series of events happen. And well, to give some broader context, well, initially frontend was about websites. Well, I mean, in the web context of it all. But in web, not only on desktop, but also for computers, for smart devices. But over the time, the scope of it broadened, and nowadays we also could make web applications, which are a lot like websites, but have more complexity, more interactivity features to them. A lot of times it is based on some private information for the user, like the account pages, like your banking stuff, for example. Also, it is now possible to do mobile applications with front-end technologies and make desktop applications using front-end technologies. For instance, here we see a VS Code application, which is a popular code editor, which is used by a lot of developers. Also, desktop versions of your messengers typically come as, well, with front-end technologies made. And the idea is that well, you have an executable file or an application which is installed on your computer, but it has a front-end layer which is done with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and which serves as a presentational layer. But even so, the application itself could touch upon some other parts like the system preferences, etc. We will touch upon it a little bit later. So comparing the front-end applications with native applications, well, you could do it in various technologies. You're not bound to do this specifically in front end. And for a long time, there were some other very solid solutions with other languages which are not front end per se. Like for Mac, a lot of stuff is done in Swift. For Microsoft, for Windows and Microsoft, a lot of stuff is done with .NET. Java and Kotlin are very popular technologies to develop software. But to compare the two, well, the most benefit of developing applications with front-end applications, with front-end technologies, is that concerning the mobile and the desktop applications, the outcome of your work is cross-platform. So you don't need several sets of teams which will devise a product for each platform. You're typically developing in one code base and just generate the application from your environment, so you could publish it further. Also, front-end technologies have better design features, and it's much easier to implement some stuff, design-wise, in your work. And since it is called cross-platform, this also means that you will deliver your product faster. Since it's one code base, one context of it, and in this way it saves time. But do keep in mind that if you want better performance, smaller application size, more precision, for example, if you are making some application on which, some businesses, some lives depend, then probably you would want to do it with the native application technologies. It really depends on your business and on your resources. So to tell a bit about the front-end environment itself and how the development is usually going. Front-end is basically a layer in the process between the design and the backend development. And here I will show you a couple of examples. Well, for instance, from designers as front-end developers, we usually get some templates. This service is called Figma. It is also a good example of a front-end web application. It also has a desktop application to work with. And so we get such templates where we could see all the sizes out of which we could export all the pictures. Here on the right we have the stuff that we could, mostly copy-paste into our code, with some changes in mind. To keep the code format and so on. A design could be something small, just like here, a couple of screens. For the mobile applications, it is a similar approach, just a different set of screens, some different rules about how to, from the design perspective, more screen and user experience dependent stuff. If you're going to work on a big project, a design file might look something like this. So here we have quite a lot of screens. We have a lot of components which we need to move from design to code and bind them to the backend. And typically, on such big projects, every team works just on one or, maximum a couple of specific features. Well, for instance, one team could do the messaging section of the application. The other team could do, for instance, the documents or authorization. Well, it usually depends, but it's not that one team would do the whole application itself. And on such a project, about 50 to maybe 100 developers could be working simultaneously. And this brings some additional challenges: how to sync between teams, how to keep the code bases intact. So back to our presentation. Yeah, so basically out of those designs, we need to provide HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. And concerning the backend, when we have the CSS, JavaScript, and HTML files, typically they end up on some server, which will serve them to the users when they get to the resource that you're developing for. And if you don't quite know how the communication, how the information goes from the server, which is kept to your browser, basically you could imagine this like a messenger app in which you communicate with a bot. So to communicate with the bot, you need to send him specific messages, and for specific messages, you will get specific replies. And in this sense, your browser is the program which communicates with the server. On the server, there is such a bot entity which responds to your request. So basically, when you access a specific address of a website, the server returns you a set of files. And when you go to the other page, it returns a different set of files. And in the internet context, this is called the server-side render. So for each page, there is a different set of those files. And this segmentation is needed for the search engines. So the information would be, depending on what the user is searching on the internet, the search engines could look through all your pages that way and find and direct the searchers to the specific page of your website. And on the other hand, there is such thing as a single page application. It works a bit similar, but it only gives, it only sends the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files once to your computer. And further, there is only requests and responses of data between the browser and the server. So the page is loaded once, and data is the only thing that gets updated. And basically, when you design web applications, mobile, desktop, this is kind of the general approach, because, these search engines are not relevant in those cases. For example, a search engine will not be able to find some private information in your account page. Since it's private, and thus it's not needed to be searchable. So to sum it up, the browser is an application, a program which can what's the word? The browser is a program which could display and render HTML, CSS, and could treat JavaScript. And the server is, it's basically a computer somewhere which runs a program which holds all your data and responds to requests to retrieve it for some users. And well, the communication between the browser and the server, also we call browser applications clients, well, because clients work mostly with browsers. And well, yes, server is a server, and the communication typically goes back and forth with HTTP protocol. Well, it's a specific protocol by which a browser could communicate with the server. There are different protocols, but HTTP is the most typical one and is most widely used one. And the server runs 24/7, so not depending on the time zone. Any time a user should be able to get the required information for him or her. And well, kind of to outline this, we could look at the browser as the presentation layer. So how it looks, how it feels, how it reacts to stuff. And the data in the system is the server part. So looking at this through a lens of responsibilities, the front end is about presentation and data communication. So we do the presentation stuff with HTML, CSS, well, and some interactivity with JavaScript. And a lot of times we also do some settings on the server. So how the data should be served, when, which specifically. And the backend is more about how this data is treated from the perspective of the system on which it is running. So if something should be calculated, or maybe if something should be retrieved from other system resources, from other servers, from databases, this is typically a backend zone of responsibility. And well, at its most basics, you could, well, as a beginner developer, you could just, for every page, you could create separate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files manually without any frameworks. You could then put them on the server and, well, with some more tackling, it would, well, like setting the addresses to the files. But in this sense, it will still work. Well, for a long time, it has been done so, and even now you could find some resources, even find some jobs that rely on this method. So just making the static files and just putting them on the server and serving them. But as a more, well, let's say, comfortable approach, typically front-end developers set up development environments in which they could use specific tools, specific frameworks, specific libraries to better organize the code, to better work with the code, to then optimize it, test it. And typically in the development environment, we break our code into various entities like components. It's usually the small pieces of data out of which we then compose pages. The routes is, well, it's basically bindings to these specific pages. So if the user accesses a specific page, what components, what pages should be displayed. Well, the state management is typically, well, a sort of a tracker what should be displayed when and what should happen depending on what the user did. Well, like, for instance, if a user clicks on some button and some pop-up is being displayed, usually in state management, the setting for the pop-up is set as hidden, and when the user clicks something, it changes to active. And when the user closes the pop-up, it basically it goes back to the hidden state. And also caching. So some stuff which is what the word? Well, yeah, it's caching is an optimization technique which just saves some website information, not the user information, but the website information on your machine, so that this stuff will not be sent every time that the user accesses this resource. And also in the development environment, we set up tests so we could check for the quality of our code. We have builders and processors, which are instruments that help optimize our code, help us make the result of our work minified to the maximum smallest size, so it would be much lighter to be sent to the user. Out of those environments, we generate the earlier mentioned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which will be further sent to the production environment. And a lot of times we use version control to keep track of our work. To give a couple of words about version control, if by any chance you haven't heard of it, the main tool for this is GitHub, and it's basically the most popular resource for developers, but also there are tools like GitLab and Bitbucket which have similar features, with some variety to it. Basically the idea is that you set up a project on GitHub, you save all your code there, and with every change, with every iteration of your work, you save various copies of what you've done. So in some cases, you can roll back to some specific version. In some cases, you could make several variants and, test them against each other, compare them. Maybe that some teams could work with different versions and then merge them into one. And here also, so basically this is how the updates come to GitHub, through pull requests, what they are called. And also here in those systems, we could do bug tracking. So if someone found a bug in the code, he could create a ticket, and someone from the team picks it up and presents some fixes for this. And to give a broader picture, for instance, a front-end team develops with React, which is a popular solution for front-end development. The backend is built with Java, which is also a very popular solution for backend and for enterprise. The results of both teams go into version control, which here is GitLab. And GitLab then publishes it to some hosting, to some cloud service, maybe to a server, from where all this information is being served to all the users of all the clients. This is typically how the development flow goes in our day-to-day work. So to tell a bit more about the front-end technologies themselves, Well, you could say that nowadays the key figures, the key players are Angular, React, and Vue.js. They have the biggest user bases. They have pretty vast communities. They're not the only tools with which you could work with frontend, but well, generally, if you will look for a job in this area, well, in most cases, you will end up working with one of these frameworks. And to tell a bit about their differences, well, Angular was initially created by Google, and it's, well, to describe it well in a couple of words, you could say that they have all the features out of the box. So if you are going to use Angular, you don't have to worry about how to set up your state management, how to set up your routes. It is all in one ecosystem. And well, to some it is a plus that you don't have to think about the stuff. But if you are more about setting up individual environments, maybe to test some different libraries that might better serve your project, then people typically go with React because it's, well, compared to Angular, it's not a framework, it's a library which helps you build the user interface part, and to manage the state, manage the routes, you typically can use anything you want. But well, still, React has some recommendations, some official recommendations on what you can use, but still you are not bound to these recommendations, and well, you could do what you want. And well, as a sort of in between React and Angular, there is Vue.js. It was developed by an ex-Angular developer, and well, yeah, you could say that it is a bit like Angular, but it's still a bit like React. This is why it's something in the middle. And you could say that Vue.js is the easiest framework to get up and running because they have a very astounding and very thorough documentation, which is often set as an example. And well, if you're not at all familiar with frontend, this is actually a very good starting point. And to compare them, well, yeah, Angular has everything out of the box. React and Vue, they generally have some recommendations what is better to use with their software, but you are not bound to do this in such a way. And broadening the scope of what could be developed with those technologies to, well, initially Angular, React, and Vue and such frameworks are about developing single-page applications. So the stuff that the files are only sent once, and afterwards the data goes back and forth. But if you want to build a server-side solution, all of those libraries have their respective, well, additional frameworks with which you could set up an environment for server-side render. And also, they all have solutions for developing mobile applications. So React has React Native, and Ionic is a cross framework solution. So, well, you could even do a mobile app in React with Ionic, but well, yeah, typically people who work in React, they do it in React Native. And also for developing desktop applications, the most popular solution is Electron, which is basically, well, it has a very hydrated minimal version of a browser in itself, which shows as a, which serves as a presentation layer. Well, yeah, typically those applications are sort of browser-based. well, in the sense that you could hide or display some parts of the browser which are needed. For example, if you're still in development, you could use the development tools which are implemented in the browser, but for production version, you could hide it so the users won't have access to it. Well, to tell about some other solutions, well, I would really recommend visiting this resource. One of them is called State.js, and do I have it? Oh, okay, I don't. Well, yeah, there are two resources. One is called State of JavaScript, the other one is called State of CSS, and on those resources you could check all the trends of the current front-end technologies. Here you could also get some statistics, some demographics, maybe find out something about some features which you haven't heard about yet. And well, yeah, also here we could see the popularity of various solutions over the years. And well, yeah, what the current tendencies are. But if you want to look at it through a job search perspective, to see what is most popular at the time being is, well, for instance, to go to your favorite job board service, well, or go to LinkedIn and just look at what companies are hiring people for. So, well, for instance, searching for React, Angular, and Vue developer, we could see how many job possibilities there are, and thus we could compare where we might get better chances of finding a job. And yeah, well, also since the trends in frontend tend to change over time, it is a good idea to just to keep an eye on what the companies are looking for, what is well popular, because in this sense it will also help you find a job faster than for, well, compared to if you want to work on some specific, not very popular technology, then in this case it might not be so easy to get a job. And also I want to tell a bit about how to gain experience if you haven't touched upon frontend, or maybe if you're still in the process of learning. So if you are going for a fresh start, so you haven't touched upon those technologies in any way, these three themes is what is better to start with. So it's HTML, CSS, and Figma. Figma is the earlier mentioned design tool, and you you do need to study HTML and CSS thoroughly, but you don't have to dig this deep into Figma because, well, it is a tool with which the designers work, but as a front-end developer, you just need to be familiar with Figma to the level that you could get the parts which you will move to your code from the design. And when you will get a somewhat solid grasp of those three technologies, you could then start off learning JavaScript, also TypeScript. It is well, let's say it is an additional feature to JavaScript, which helps you make less errors while writing your code. And if you're just starting, it is a good idea to start learning them simultaneously. Well, because TypeScript lately has become an industry standard, and it's better to know it to some extent than not to be familiar with it at all. And well, yeah, for instance, you could start with Vue.js because, as I said earlier, it is the easiest framework to start with. And when you will feel comfortable with Vue.js, you could also look at React and Angular, so that you could have a a real comparison between the two, and maybe if you like something else, you could switch to the other framework, or you could work with them simultaneously. And also, Node.js is a popular solution for the server side. So in Node.js, you write a program which will run on the server and serve the result files of your frontend work. And you don't need to dig into backend development thoroughly, but at least to the extent that you could create a simple server which will serve the data by the specific internet addresses. And from the challenges perspective, how you could see the beginners, juniors, middles, and seniors. Well, I mean, at what step? What should you know? Let's say it in such a way. So, on the entry level, it is generally recommended to be able to create a to-do application. So it is a list of tasks which could be checked or unchecked, added or deleted, and well, basically, when you start to learn a framework, this is a good exercise to see how this could be achieved with a certain solution that you want to use. And going back to the recommendations to the Vue, React, and Angular, well, if you haven't worked with them, you could see how this application could be built. Well, the idea is that it shouldn't take a lot of time. Well, it's not a project for a couple of months. It's, well, if you are starting with it, maybe a day, a couple of days, a week. But learning this, you would get familiar with the most basics of the front-end development. So how the state management works, how to break this into smaller components and how to arrange them. So this is why it is a really good starting point. After this, well, yeah, this stuff is, well, junior to mid-level. It basically revolves around building a catalog, a blog system, a shop, and in these type of exercises, you will get more familiar with how to set up a server, how to set up a basic database. So well, let's say a post of your blog, some item of your catalog or shop are kept on the server. From the browser, you request the specific information, specific list of data that should be displayed. And as a front-end developer, you set up this communication between the browser and the server. So on the server, the data is kept, and on the in the browser, it is displayed. And here you would also get familiar how to work with APIs. APIs are, well, let's say they are sort of patterns by which you get the specific information at various points of time and depending on the request. Here you could also get familiar with how the authentication works, how the search through the data list works. Well, yeah, how to edit, update, delete the data which is on the server, but how to do it from the browser. And well, yeah, I'd say if you get to the mid-level, these are all the topics which you will be working day to day. So to get to know them good is a good starting point to, well, yeah, to grow as a developer. And this will come in handy in, well, yeah, in day-to-day tasks. And well, yeah, to push it to a further level, well, you could try to build something like a chat application. It's not specifically supposed to be on a mobile. Well, here on mobile is just an example, but the idea is that it should have real-time communication. So you don't need to update the page to see if you have any new messages. So it should happen instantaneously. Also, such applications present other challenges like how to optimize the infinite scroll. So, for instance, if you have the chat from several years back, and over the time you have maybe several thousand, maybe tens of thousands messages, so that you wouldn't load all those messages on the page. Well, yeah, because it will hang the system. And well, yeah, typically working on a mobile application provides such challenges, and looking into how to solve them, which will serve you well along the way. And even stuff. Sorry. Even this stuff is sometimes asked on the interviews. Well, not specifically how to code them, but interviewers for the jobs, they ask senior developers how they would devise such a system, what things should be kept in mind, how to do it better, how to optimize it. So getting to know how to do this will also help you greatly. And well, yeah, to give some recommendations on some resources how to learn the language, I would say that currently the You Don't Know Jazz by Kyle Simpson is by far the best JavaScript book series which you could read. They are written in a very good language, and they start from the more basic concepts to the more complex ones. Also, the Effective TypeScript book is, well, it's about the earlier mentioned TypeScript, which is, well, a lot of times needed in our work. And also you could look into books which have a cookbook word in them, and those books typically provide some examples on either how to solve some specific problems or how to better do some stuff which might be done in various ways, so to say. And, well, yeah, I would say that this is all for now. You could check out the, well, the bigger list of resources through the QR code. And, well, thank you for your time.